Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the second installment of the massively successful Into the Spider-Verse released in 2018. After the nearly 5-year-long wait, we're finally reunited with Miles and the other Spider People. And let me tell you, this film is a lot. No punches are pulled. From start to finish, it is a spectacle and yet another monumental achievement in animation. I don't have to tell you that this film looks beautiful. Any expectations that were set by Into the Spider-Verse are most certainly met here. It's a colorful comic book brought to life and interwoven with a myriad of art styles to create the most innovative animated film of the past decade. Everybody at this point has commented on the influence that the first movie had on animation as a whole, and that momentum is carried right over into the second entry on an even larger scale. One word that could be used to describe this film is overstimulating, and I mean that in both a positive and slightly negative sense, because where the film succeeds, it also occasionally trips up on its own ambition. The first one was much more contained, but this one has to juggle a seemingly endless amount of new additions to the continuity, making it harder to keep up with its pace. There is no shortage of crowd-pleasing moments and awe-inspiring action. It can feel like the film is going 300 miles per hour with very few rest stops in between, but the times that we do get a second to breathe are some of the most emotionally poignant and memorable moments. I cannot stress enough that Across the Spider-Verse maintains a grounded story about adolescence and interpersonal relationships. I love this movie despite its intimidatingly grand scale. It's a visually masterful work of art. The humor is consistent, it has a pretty good soundtrack, great voice acting, and the screenplay is crafted with love for the Spider-Man ethos that embodies the foundations of the character. And I'm about to touch on some spoilers, so click off now if you haven't watched the movie, and come back when you have. Otherwise, let's talk about that ending, or rather, the lack thereof. Damn near nothing is resolved, leaving us with one hell of a cliffhanger. I was a bit confused when we got to the last 5 minutes, and then I had that slow realization that this was most definitely going to be the first half of a greater overarching narrative. I'm glad they decided to split this into 2 films rather than attempting to cram it all into one. There's clearly so much that is yet to be explored, and writers David Callahan, Phil Lord, and Christopher Miller made the right choice, saving the resolution for the third film. Across the Spider-Verse dabbles in this sort of utilitarian dilemma, leaving Miles with the realization that his father is set on a destined path to die, and saving him could have dire consequences for the canon and the fate of reality. It also brings into question this idea of fate, alluding to the fact that Spider-Man is not predestined, because anyone can be Spider-Man. This is how the film captures the essence of the character so perfectly, and that is, after all, how he came to be in the first place. And that's really what's so great about these Spider-Verse films. They are these meta, self-reflective love letters to the character. Their first priority has always been to make something that is truly entertaining and soulful and sincere. Each character in this film is helmed so carefully, and there's a lot of characters. Both Gwen and Miles continue on their trajectory, the dynamic between them being further built upon in this film. The Spot is kind of your typical villain, but his powers make for some very creative scenes when he's matched up with Miles. But the real conflict of the film unfolds with Oscar Isaac's character Miguel, who he does not see eye to eye with, setting up for what could end up being one of the best trilogies we've ever seen. Now, if I was really going to nitpick here, maybe I'd point out the fact that the live action being incorporated into a predominantly animated film didn't really work for me. It kind of took me out of the experience, mostly because animation is often supposed to be visually detached from reality in a lot of ways, with there obviously being some exceptions. And I understand the inclusion of someone like Donald Glover or Andrew Garfield, but it just wasn't very seamless. And maybe not every single moment lands for me, and maybe the second act is a little bit bloated, but I think my feelings can definitely change with another viewing. Because there's so much going on so often, it's very easy to miss a lot of things. Regardless, this film is funny, it's emotional, it's visually stunning, everything you want out of a Spider-Verse sequel. That I can say for sure. Anyways, that's basically all I have to say. The movie pretty much speaks for itself. I don't have anything super insightful painful to say. I think out of the 2023 releases I've seen so far, this one is probably the best. So let me know what you thought of Across the Spider-Verse, and where does it rank amongst the other Spider-Man films for you? For me, I personally loved Into the Spider-Verse a little bit more, but to each their own. And if you made it to the end of the video, you might as well leave a like, you might as well subscribe, and thanks for watching.